What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you tune into the channel and check out the content. And with that being said, man, I want to speak on a statement Stephen A. Smith made about LeBron James. And so Stephen A. Smith said that LeBron is a great ambassador for basketball, right? And that statement right there, I want to push back on it because like when I think of somebody who's a great ambassador for the game of basketball, I think of like Kobe Bryant. And if you remember, like when Kobe Bryant retired, and he used to go into different shows and he talked about basketball and he explained, like what his mindset and what his thoughts were on different things. That to me, was an example of a great ambassador, right? Because it was a little bit about like it was about his insight, but it was more so about the game of basketball, right? And also what Kobe Bryant did and what he meant for women's basketball. Remember, Kobe Bryant's daughter played basketball. He was a big fan of what's the young lady name, Sabrina Ionescu, and they was kind of close, so he was really good for basketball. Another person I think is really a good ambassador for basketball is probably like Charles Barkley, Magic, definitely Magic Johnson. Like when Magic talk about basketball, because it's people want to hear their stories, but it's not just about their stories. It's about them and it's about basketball, right? And the way they tell their stories just make people, like people get to live vicariously through them. Even if you didn't get to play at the level that they played at, which most people don't, you still, that makes them great ambassadors to the game. I don't get that from LeBron James. Like even when, he was on that podcast he did with the guy, JJ Redick. It was more so, in my opinion, it was about LeBron James just trying to change the narrative about some things that he disagree in basketball. The same thing with LeBron James and that podcast that he did from time to time with Steve Nash. It was the same way, um, like he was talking about ring culture and stuff like that. Like it was more so about him trying to change the narrative, and which every time he tried to change the narrative, it is in a way it'll put him in more of a positive light, and so that's why I don't get why Stephen A. Smith is saying that LeBron James is a great ambassador for the game. Because to me, he's not. I look at like the 1992 Dream Team, like when you had Magic and Bird and Mike and Scotty and what was it, Clyde Drexler and John Stockton and Karl Malone, right? That right there, those guys were great for the game of basketball because they helped to promote it and they helped the game to advance. Even like Charles Barkley, when he was on there too, Patrick Ewing, those guys were great because they helped to promote the game of basketball. It was almost like they were on tour. Even though they were playing in the Olympics, they was just like on a world tour to promote basketball. Whereas when LeBron James was in, like I'm not sure if it was 2012 when he was in the Olympics, and they were, like they were getting ready to ask LeBron James not to come because of how much how much of a disruption he was, you know, which that would never happen with Mike and Bird and all those guys. They was ambassador. It wasn't about Mike. It wasn't about Bird. Sure, the people wanted to see those guys play. People wanted to see them perform, and that's what they did. They played and they performed for everybody, right? But not with LeBron, man. It was, like I said, when he was in, I forgot what games it was. I don't know if it was 2012. I think it was 2012, but it was they were considering asking LeBron James not to play, man, because of how he had treated people the previous Olympic Games. and they thought that he was just too much of a distraction, too much of a I guess that you could say distraction, right? So that leads me to wonder, like, why would Stephen A. Smith still say that LeBron James is, like he's a great ambassador for the game of basketball when that's definitely not true. Like I said, when you compare to him to all the greats that came before him, he's not doing the same things that they did, and so and I think for LeBron James, this could be like a dangerous situation because the media likes to build people up so they can tear them down. And even if they have to tell a lie to build you up, you know, and then later on when they come at you, they're going to be they're going to be tearing down that lie. And I think that's about what's going on with LeBron, with Stephen A. Smith and the media, because Stephen A. Smith always say LeBron James is the second best player, in his opinion, the second best player. But yeah, he can't stand him, right? I and so if Stephen A. Smith is the one patting me on the back, man, I'll be very, very weary. But with that being said, I'm gonna play what Stephen A. Smith said, let you hear in his own words what he said about LeBron James being a great ambassador for the game, which I disagree with.
This I've said enough about where I feel and where I stand. At the end of the day, I will say this. I think Lonzo would tell you he's a great teammate to Lonzo. I think most people would tell you he's been a great teammate and a great ambassador for the game of basketball. And the one thing that I'm not going to let happen is, our personal differences with each other get in the way of me recognizing how phenomenal of a player and a basketball ambassador he.
See, I think Stephen A. Smith is playing games. I really think he's playing games. A lot of people don't think LeBron James is a great teammate. Um, he's a guy. He's the kind of guy who is passive aggressive, right? And passive aggressive, I guess, where we come from, just mean like you sneaky and you shisty, right? But passive aggressive is somebody who you really can't trust. Somebody who will double cross you in a second. Smile in your face. And so that's what I take passive aggressive to mean. But this guy was not a great teammate. You know, he's not and definitely not a great ambassador. Like I said, if you just take LeBron James and you compare him to all the greats who played the game before and listen to how they talk about basketball. You can listen to Isaiah Thomas and the way Isaiah Thomas talk about basketball. He's a great ambassador for the sport. Even some of the guys that came after Isaiah, like when you listen to like Chris Webber or Jalen Rose, those guys could be, but LeBron James is just different. Because now maybe once LeBron James retire, he'll be a better ambassador because, the narrative don't always have to be about him, or he won't have to change the narrative to fit what he think his legacy should be. Maybe that'll be the situation then. But now while he's playing, I don't think he's a great ambassador for the game of basketball. And like I said, the judge of that is just looking at all the other guys who came before him and how they respond to the game of basketball as opposed to how he respond, and how and it's okay to see the sport differently, right? Because you could have Charles Barkley and Isaiah on the same panel talking about basketball and they'll have different opinions. That's not, you know what I mean? That's not uncommon, but even then it's still about the game of basketball, how much they enjoy playing basketball, giving people insight, and try to allow them to enjoy their experiences, people to enjoy Charles Barkley experiences through him, Isaiah experiences through Isaiah. But it's not like that with LeBron. You don't get that from LeBron James, man. So I think when Stephen A. Smith is just he's playing, he's up to something now, I would think, man. he's up to something. First, when he say LeBron James is the number 2 basketball of all time, you know, I think they up to something, man. And so that's my take on it. Make sure to like and subscribe. Also, don't forget to leave a comment, and I will check you all out in the next video. Peace.